Hi everyone, how's it going? I'm just adjusting my camera a little bit. So I'm gonna give everybody a couple minutes to join in while I adjust the lightning a little bit because it's a little bit bright, I think. Actually, it might be okay. I just wanna make sure that you can see the sketch while we do it first. So let me there we go. Okay, I think that might be okay. But you guys can let me know if you if you can't see something specific or if you're having trouble seeing something like the sketch mainly. But yeah, welcome in. We're going to be painting this fun little spooky stroll. It's really fun. It's really colorful. So I'm going to show you the colors that you might want to use. You're welcome to kind of change it up a little bit if you want to. Maybe you want to use a different color palette, but I'm going to be using this color is like a vermilion color. That's what it says, vermilion. You will need a green color. This one is called Viridian, I think. And then the lemon yellow is a really good one for like these kind of areas, the highlights and stuff. Absolutely, you can use acrylics for sure. I just try to water them down a bit so that you can kind of build up the colors as more. The application would obviously be a little bit it's going to be a little different, but you can absolutely use acrylics no problem. But yeah, and then a purple. You're going to need a purple color for the background. And these trees are actually purple. They look black, but they're purple. But if you don't have purple, like a dark purple, you can use black for the trees for sure. So black is definitely going to be in the color palette. So these are like kind of the main colors you want to use. And they kind of look like this on paper. Hold on. There we go. They kind of look like that. Okay. Okay. Perfect. So yeah, we're going to sketch it out really quickly and then we're going to get started on painting it. What else? Oh yeah, you need water for sure. A little cup of water. Even if you're using acrylics, obviously you need some water to just kind of water down a little bit. I have this little spray that I love to use. These are just to activate my watercolors. So I'm going to be using my palette, but you can definitely use like the little tubes. It's just hard to see the colors on the palette and it's really messy. But yeah, I use the little spray for that. I also sometimes use it for like the background, like the sky and stuff like that. That might really help as well to kind of give it that beautiful effect. All right. Okay. So also, if you have washi tape, you can use a little border. You don't have to. It's just nice to have it. It kind of adds. I always end up messing up the border anyway, so don't worry if you don't have any. Painter's tape is really harsh, so just be careful with that. But yeah, happy weekend of Halloween. Super exciting. It's hard to when you're an adult because Halloween gets less exciting, but hopefully you guys still enjoy it. You can get a drink and just kind of this is a very fun and relaxing painting. I just wanted to give everybody a couple minutes, but I think we'll get started. Feel free to ask any questions at any point. I do believe you can rewind the video. You just can't fast forward, obviously, right? But you can definitely rewind it, even though it's live, I think. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. And yeah, you're just going to need your pencil to sketch it first, and then we'll go ahead and start painting. So the sketch is, again, if you can't see it, I actually think I might have to darken the camera a little bit. Let me see. I might darken it a little bit just for the sketch, and then I'll bring up the brightness a bit, okay? Okay. So we're actually going to start by, you want to pinpoint where your little house is going to go. So it just depends how much sky you want to have. So let's say you want a lot of sky, you would just lower your house. But I'm going to put it right around here, which is like not the middle of my page, but a little bit higher. Because this is where our little house is going to go. And you can do kind of like a little tiny line here, just so you know where it's going to go. Okay. Now, these little area here, you're going to start bringing it down a little bit. It's just supposed to be a very tiny little hill, but you want to have some flatness at the top, like that. It's just going to be a little hill. Very nice and simple. You don't have to make anything straight. I actually recommend doing like kind of like a very bumpy lines. And then starting from here, from the corner, sorry, from the side, you're going to go ahead and close this nice and close like that. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I encourage it to be a little bit messy. Or not messy, just bumpy, I guess you could say. I would also love to know if anybody's dressing up. What are you dressing up as? I usually dress up and just give out candy or watch a movie or something. I don't have any kids, so don't get to do the trick-or-treat part. Beautiful. So now that we have our little mountain here and then the path area here, we can start doing the path. So I recommend that you start with the path up here, so that way you can follow it through all the way down. All right. So we're just going to start doing, you want to do one side first and then the other side. So we're just going to start with that. It kind of looks like an anthill almost, but just a lot smaller. And then once you have one side, you can actually follow it through, but you want to make sure that it gets wider at the bottom. All right. And it's okay if you make it really dark with your pencil. I'm sketching a lot darker than I normally would. You can do that too, especially because you want to make sure that you're able to see it. And we are using pretty dark colors anyway, so it should be okay to kind of make it dark. You can use watercolors, you can use acrylics, you can use gouache. I don't know if a lot of people like to use gouache, but you can definitely use gouache for this one. There's a lot of buildup, so that's really nice. Okay. And then from here, so the way that this works is you don't want to continue it from right here. You actually want to widen the path a bit. So the path is actually going to start a little bit apart from here. So I'm just doing two little dots to kind of signify where they're going to start. Does that make sense? So because this is really far away, that's why when it gets, it's like you don't see the other side of it, right? So the path is actually going to start much wider over here. Right. So I suggest, like I said, doing one side first. So let's do this one first. I'm just going to start curving it a little bit. And you can do as many curves as you want. Now, the only thing is, once you start getting down here, you want to go all the way down and kind of make it very wide. So it starts to go down like this. And it could be more curved, but the thing is, you're going to be curving it more anyway with the, what's it called? With the other one. I'm actually going to curve this one a little bit more. So I'm just going to adjust it a little bit, which you can do as well. You can adjust it as much as you need to. The more curvy, the more like character I think it has. So keep that in mind. There we go. I was gonna put some Halloween music, but I couldn't find anything that didn't, was a crowd pleaser. So if you guys have any suggestions, I would love to know. But since you have this one here, I'm actually going to make this a little bit wider as well. So see how I'm adjusting it? That's okay. You can adjust it as much as you need to. There we go. So we got this one going on. And now we're going to do the other side, and we're going to follow the same direction as the first line. However, once we get over here, we're just going to make this wider. And it could be as wide as you want it to be, maybe a little bit wider actually. There we go. And then you need an eraser just to, if you're adjusting it as much as I am, you can use an eraser to clean it up a little bit. Like I said, the darker you make your sketch, the harder it is to erase. So just keep that in mind. If you're someone that likes to make adjustments a lot, just try to sketch as light as possible. All right. Perfect. Okay, so we have our path so far, which is great. We just want to do, I'm going to do the little house part just to kind of get it out of the way so that we can start bringing in everything together. So the little house is very simple because it's going to be black anyway. So you just want to start with a little rectangle going up like this. You don't want to make it too big. So just watch your shapes. And then it's going to have a nice little peak going up like that. So it's just like a rectangle with a triangle on here. And then there's going to be a little chimney here. If you want me to zoom in, let me know. I think it looks okay, but I don't know if you guys are having a hard time seeing the house. It's very small. It's very simple. It's just a little rectangle with a little roof. And your house can look different. So if maybe you want to change it up a little bit, you can change it. And then the other one is just going to be the same thing. We're just doing a smaller version of it. Like that. And then another one on here. There we go. It's a nice little house here. You don't have to worry about the windows because we're going to do add those at the end. So if you have a white acrylic, awesome. You will need a light color to do it. If you don't think you have a white acrylic, you can do the windows prior to coloring it black. But I always like to do the windows last because they're very small. And it's hard to kind of color around it. It's easier to just color the whole thing black and then putting the windows on top. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it like this for now. This one's actually a lot bigger than this one, but that's okay. It will look different either way. So we have our little path here. And then we're going to start adding some of our trees. So the trees are very, have just like that perspective that you will follow. So they will get bigger, they will get smaller as it goes far away. Oh, good morning from Australia. That's so cool. It's morning for you. Good morning. Nice to have you. We're going to, like I was telling people, if you're coming in a little bit late, don't worry. You can always rewind it a little bit, I think. Please let me know if I'm wrong about that. I think you can, though. You just can't fast forward it. And yeah, you can rewind it a little bit just to kind of, but there's also going to be, this will be like left as a recording as well for you to watch. But yeah. So we have this. Now we're going to add our first tree. So our first tree is going to start over here in the corner. So you're going to do a little bit of like some grass texture. You don't have to do a lot. That's going to come out this way. And then all you're going to do is do a nice long line going up and then going out like this. Okay. It's okay that there's an overlap here. You can just erase that. It's not a big deal. The trees are going to be dark anyway, so it's not a big deal. And then you don't have to make every single branch right now. We're just going to make a quick little outline of some of the branches, but don't worry, you can add more as after. Okay, I just like to do a quick little outline of it. Very simple one, just so that I know where it's going to go. But then afterwards, you can add more. So see these little branches right here that I did? Those ones were added after. So when you're painting, okay? So don't worry about that too much. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. However, the second tree is not going to start over here. It's actually going to start a little bit higher, like right about here maybe. Just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm just going to go up into the corner and then into the top, like that. All right. So again, the overlap is okay. And then you don't want to do too many branches. Just keep it nice and simple for now. You can do 1 or 2. There we go. So something like that, where you don't have to overcomplicate it. So we have our 2 trees over here. And then you're basically just adding more all the way down, but they have to get smaller, right? So make sure you keep an eye on those and those sizes. So the second tree, we're going to start with another one over here. Let's do a little bit of grass here, kind of coming out. And then it's going to, now also they do have a little bit of a curvature to them. So keep that in mind when you're doing it. And then maybe one branch, this, and then one over here. And they can be skinny trees or thick trees. It's kind of up to you. Okay. And then erase this little part right here. There. So it is smaller and it's kind of, there's a little bit of a negative space here. This can be bigger also, like you can make it bigger as well. Now on the other side over here, the tree is actually hiding quite a bit. So we're just going to have it come out. We're only going to see a little bit of it like that. So these kind of things that are kind of on top of each other will make the composition look a little bit more interesting as it goes. Now at this point, you'll notice that the trees start to kind of go, everything's going towards the little house. So the trees are going to start bending into the little house. All right. So let's see, we're going to make another one. I'm going to make one here actually. That's going to start. It's going to have a little bit of a curvature. You don't have to do that many branches. You can just do a couple for now. Keep it nice and simple. Like that. So the farther out they go, they can make them less detailed. And then another one on this side. I find trees are kind of difficult to make at times. That's why I'm saying don't stress out too much about the branches, because you could always change them up a little bit after. There we go. Okay. And then we're just going to keep going from there. I'm going to add another one here, one more here on this side while we're here. And they can start bending a little bit more now. Don't worry, you can add a lot more branches after. So don't worry. If they look a little naked right now, don't stress out about that. Okay, and then you can keep it kind of, what's the word? Like even, I guess you could say. But you can also not keep it even. Like one side can have more than the other side, it doesn't matter. So far we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's actually, we do have every, like an even number going on, but they can definitely change up a little bit. And then we're just going to do one more, actually, a little one. That's going to be right about here. Like that. And then it's going to come out this way. Now, feel free to add as many trees as you want. Maybe you want to add quite a few more. That's okay. You can definitely do that. But I think I'm going to just do this amount. Don't worry about the little, you can definitely do the little, there's like a little, what's it called? I forgot the name, the word. Gate, a little gate. So that little gate is just a line going down with little lines across like this. There we go. There you go. So nothing crazy in terms of detail. You just want to keep a nice outline of everything, right? It's fairly simple, not too much. Everything's kind of, you just want the trees to kind of go into your, the drawing doesn't have to be perfect or super pretty, because once you paint it, you will be able to change things about it. Now for the sun, I'm not going to do the outline for it. We're just going to paint that together because I think it's simpler. But now we're going to do the pumpkin. So the pumpkin, we're going to start with the first one, which is this one right here. And it's going to be the first thing you see. So it's obviously going to be a big shape right here. There's going to be a nice little pumpkin over here. I'm going to erase this line here. Doesn't have to be super detailed. You just want to do the outline. There we go. And so, okay, so they're basically jack-o'-lanterns, but you can change the carving of it if you want to make it look different. I'm just going to do the creepy little eyes here because I like that. Anybody carve pumpkins so far? I got to carve a pumpkin last week and it was really fun, but I forget how messy it is. It's like really gross. Then again, the same thing with the trees. You're going to be making the pumpkin smaller and smaller. So our second pumpkin is going to go right about here. It's just going to be a nice circle. And then I like to do the top like a little bit bumpy. So I add like 3 little bumps and then I kind of shape them down like that. Okay. And then the face looks like this. They have the eyes like that, going downward. And then you can do whatever smile you want. I just like to do the traditional one where you go up and down, up and down. Just because that's the traditional one. And then we'll do another one here. So I'm just going to make sure it's a little bit smaller. Just a little bit. That. So because the distance is not too much, you don't have to move it too much. You can just adjust it. And the eyes can be overlapping. It's okay. And then maybe we'll do two little ones right here. One here. So I actually want to make these quite small compared to the original one because the distance is wrong in here. This one's way too big. However, if your pumpkins are really big, like they can definitely be bigger. And then I'm just gonna have a little one here. So the more like you follow the perspective, the better, I think. So you can kind of still see how nice it looks from a big object to getting smaller and smaller. There we go. Perfect. Just gonna move this over a little bit. All right. So your sketch should look a little bit like this or close to it. Like I say, you're welcome to change it up a little bit. And then you can start getting your tools ready. So for the brushes, I'll show you before we start painting. I use this one. This is my #1 brush that I use. I use it almost for the whole thing. But you're welcome to kind of play around with different sizes. So this one is another one that's really good for like smaller details. So these two I feel like would be enough to use it. I'm just gonna brighten it up a little bit. Okay, it's a little bit brighter. I know it's a little hard to see the trees, but once we start painting, it should be okay. Let me see if I can fix that actually. Okay, I'm gonna have to make it darker still. Okay, we'll just leave it like that. Let me know if it's too dark. Okay, so yeah, like I said, these are the colors you might want to use. Purple, like a lemon yellow, black for the house for the very end. Black, every time you use black, especially with watercolors, you want to make sure you use it very last. And yeah, some green and some orange. But feel free to kind of get creative with the colors. So the first thing we're actually going to paint is some of the background. So we're not going to paint the whole background right now. But the reason we're going to paint some of the background is because everything else that we're going to paint is going to be darker. So the house, the trees. So you want to paint the background first to kind of lay out your color. And if you're using acrylics, just make sure that your sketch is very dark. That way, when you paint over this, you're still able to see the trees, okay? With watercolor, it's usually the case, so it should be okay. All right, so you want to make sure you wet your brush. I'm just going to activate my watercolors really quickly, and then I can start. There we go. Let me know if you have any questions as we go, okay? So for the first color, it is like a nice little orange color with some yellow. So if you have a nice orange, that's a good setting place because the sky, I don't know, I just went with orange. Honestly, the sky doesn't have any like specific direction. I just kind of went for it and then it came out that way and it was really pretty. So I was like, okay. So now as you're painting, it's okay if you have you color in the sun or the moon, sorry. So but the moon would technically be around here or maybe a little bit higher. So you can kind of leave that area a little bit white. And then we'll go with the lemon yellow. Oops, that's not a good color. So the reason I went for the lemon yellow and not a warmer yellow is because I wanted it to be kind of like spooky, I guess you could say. So you definitely just have to leave a little part of the moon open like this. Does that make sense? So you are welcome to sketch it. I didn't sketch it because I feel like it will ruin the look of it. But you just want to lay out like a little bit, almost like a sunset look, kind of. Just like that. But you're not going completely down. Oops, that's very orange. Don't be afraid of pigment because you can always, for me, like watercolor definitely dries lighter than it looks. So don't be afraid of pigment. So you would kind of do this with acrylic. If you're using acrylic, you would kind of lay out the color really, really light and then darken it as you need. You can always go darker, but you can't go lighter, back lighter. So you're leaving some of this area white. You're not going to go all the way down with the yellow. You're just going to leave it white. But the reason we're going on top of the trees is because the trees are going to be painted dark. So it's okay. Beautiful. And then you're going to go in with your purple. So a purple, you're welcome to use any purple you have. Violet is great. I'm just using a nice little purple that is quite dark, but it dries really different. So I'm just going on top of my house here and on top of my trees, and that's okay because I can still see them. So as long as you can still see them, you're good. But we're just laying out the flat color right now. You don't necessarily have to blend it with the top. You just want to put some color, which is purple. And I'm not worried about the fact that I'm getting my trees full of purple because it's going to be a nice dark color anyway. So it works out just fine. And you'll notice that when I'm applying the color, I'm adding water to kind of fade it, blend it out a bit. So it is quite of a chaotic application, but that's okay. But see, it looks really nice. Purple and yellow are very nice together. I think that's good. We're going to do some clouds later, so don't worry about that. Now, with your brush, you have to wet the brush and kind of wet some areas here, kind of like lines almost. And then you can go in with some pigment and place that some darker areas. Like this. Okay, so utilize the brush. The brush is really useful for these applications. And you can use a little bit of red, that pink. So this red is like a pinkish red. So if you have like a nice pink red, use it because that's the better choice for it rather than using like a really dark purple. Sorry, red. Like you almost want it to be like pinkish. I'm just moving it out a little bit, just so it doesn't look so harsh. Okay, so I'll show you the color that I'm using for the pink area. So it is kind of like a pinkish red. So it has a lot of cool tones in it. It's like this color. Can you guys see it? It looks really dark, but it's actually like super pinkish red. So if you have something like fuchsia, like a fun watercolor, use that because you'll enjoy that way more. So with that red and a lot of water, not a lot of water, like your brush should be nice and pigmented. You can actually start adding some cloud shapes. So the way that I'm doing it is I'm just placing some cloud shapes around my sun. Like this. They don't have to be perfect. The reason I'm adding these like this is because I'm going to add some white afterwards. But you just kind of want to go for that nice cloud shape. They can be as big or as small as you want them to be. And then maybe some on this side. But see how I'm kind of flaring out my brush like this? That's kind of what you want to do. There we go. And then maybe add a little bit more pink here at the very corners of my, what do you call it? Of my clouds. But we'll retouch it as we go. Beautiful. So if you have a white acrylic or a really good white watercolor, use it. I'm going to use this little white here that I have in the corner. And I'm just going to start placing some white on the clouds to give it a more smoky look. Is smoky the right word? Airy? Something like that. There we go. So some white watercolors are not the greatest, so just be careful with what you have. But see how they start looking more fluffy because I'm adding that white in there. And you can do that with the acrylic colors. So with the acrylics, you would do the same thing. It's just a different blending method, right? But they can be as intense as you want them to be. Okay, so I think I'm okay with the sky for now. I don't want to overdo it because you still want to be able to see your trees to an extent. So I'm hoping you guys can still see them. It's a little bit tough to see it if you're put the purple too dark. So you just have to be careful with that. I can still see it perfectly fine, but I just want to make sure you guys can see it. And yeah, just make sure that you can see them. All right. I'm just coloring this area here. So the next step would be to do the grass. The reason we're doing the grass first is just because you don't want to, the trees should be pretty much last because they're the darkest. Same with the pumpkins. So for the green, you can use any green you want. I'm using a really nice like emerald green, almost emerald, yeah. But you can play around with your greens. So you can just go ahead and start coloring the grass areas as much as with watercolors, it's really nice because you can just kind of do a light wash and then do layers of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a nice little layer of color here. Putting some color here. There we go. And so if you ever feel like the watercolor is too dry, you just have to add a little bit of water. So with this part, it's a little bit more precise. Like you have to be more precise with it. You just want to make sure you don't get it on the path. And then here, oops. So the closer it is, the darker it would be. So the farther away, the less dark it's going to be. However, I'm okay with going over my trees a little bit. There we go. Because this part right here can kind of be mixed in with a little bit of purple, just to make it nice and kind of muddy looking. Because it's pretty far away, so. Like it doesn't have to be like a vibrant green. It could just be a nice dark green. Okay, so something like that. But then as it gets close down here, you can make it a lot more darker. Just so you can see the difference between both areas. Perfect. Cool, okay. And then this part right here also will be nice and green. That. There we go. We're gonna color that whole section. So this is why this brush is nice for this areas like this. So you don't have to use a little brush for it. Now there is a little bit of green here, so I'm just gonna go over my trees again because the trees are gonna be darker. It's okay. So I'm not worried about it. I'm just gonna color this section nice and green. So this is a really pretty green. I like it a lot, but you could definitely make it more yellow. It's more of like a bluish green almost, but I really enjoy it. Okay, now the path is actually like a grayish color. You could just use a light black, like super light. Or you can use like a light purple or a little mixture of both. Have fun with it. Maybe I'll use a little bit of a light purple actually, just to change it up a little bit. Oh, oops, I forgot. Okay, so if you are coloring, doing like a luminant, like a bright little area for the light, you can technically leave a little spot around the pumpkins, like this, so that you can paint that yellow. It doesn't have to be very big, it's just there. There we go. I think that color looks really nice. But like I said, you can change it up a little bit if you want to. I did like a gray for the original one, but I kind of regret it. And I'm okay with going over my pumpkin a little bit. I'm not going for perfection here because the colors on the pumpkin are going to be super pigmented, so you don't have to worry about making it look perfect. Now, the path technically should be light as well, but I'm just making it a little bit darker just so you can see it better. There we go. Cool. I like that. I think that looks nice. So even though you will have a light, you can equally do like a shadow as well for the pumpkin. And the shadow can be made with like some dark green. So the little shadows would be like coming out to the right. Sorry, left. Right and left. Like that. Okay, beautiful. So all the little details can be added at the end. So this little details, meaning like the grass stuff, these stuff you can add after you add the color of the trees, because you want it to be able to be visible still. So I'm just thinking I want to do this part right here like a little bit darker, because I can't really see it. I'm just doing the little mountain darker. There we go. Okay, perfect. I think that looks better. So now that we have all that set up, we can actually start doing our trees. So when you do your trees, you have to make sure you're happy with your sky. So if you're not happy with your sky, just adjust it now if you can. So I'm going to add a little bit more white to my clouds. See, my white's not the best. It's kind of like groggy. So if you have a white acrylic, use that if you like. It's not the worst, but it just doesn't do it for me very much. Now, one thing you can do for the clouds is, I'll show you. So since I'm adding more white, I'm just going to go in with my pink and add a little pop of color inside of the clouds like this. Kind of dabbing it gently, just so they pop a little bit more. But they don't have to be perfect. Honestly, recreating the sky is probably the hardest part, in my opinion, just because it took, it's hard to kind of get it to do the same effect. That's the thing with watercolor. It's always different as much as you try. It always ends up looking a little bit different. So, okay, but I think I'm happy with my sky. It's not too bad. I think we'll leave it like that. So for the trees, like I said, they would be a dark purple color with a little bit of black if you have that. If not, you can just go straight with some purple. Let me see how dark my purple is. I'm just going to show you. Okay, so see, my purple literally looks black. So I'm just going to go straight with my purple with pigment. I'm not washing it down too much. I have a pretty good purple. You might not have a dark enough purple, so just mix it a little bit with black and you'll see the difference. But see how nice that looks? This purple is so nice because you can see the darkness of it, but in the light, or when it gets lighter, it kind of shows. It looks almost like the moonlight is giving it that effect. So it's a really nice purple. I love this purple. And then I'm just going to start going over my branches now. But see, I use this brush for almost the whole painting. I don't even think I might use the little one. But you can definitely switch it up here. So if you're having trouble with the tree branches, just switch it up into using the smaller brush. And then I'm going to go ahead and go here. And I'm not going to add those extra branches just yet. I want to add all my trees and then add the branches as I go after. So in order for the trees not to kind of blend with each other, you did want to leave a little bit of space between each other. So just keep that in mind. But this one, for example, didn't have any space. So I'm using a lot of dark pigment for it so that you're able to see it. Okay. I'm going to go straight with this one. Try to have fun with the branches. You don't have to make it look perfect. can add this one over here. Perfect. Just gonna take a sip of my drink. There we go. And you keep going from here on. I like to do one side at a time just to kind of get it right. So yeah, when you get to those smaller areas, I do like to switch to my smaller brush because then it gets a little bit tricky. Oh, oops. Not tricky. Sorry, that's not the word. Like it gets just a little bit more nerve-wracking to kind of get down here. You just want to be careful. And also, it's really hard to see the branches at this point. I can still see them, but they're a little bit tougher now. But you can change it up a little bit. There we go. And then my last little one is over here. Just this little tiny one. There we go. And then we have, see how nice the trees just add this whole other dimension to your painting. You don't even have to do really any details because they are nice and dark. Yeah. Thank you, Colleen. I hope yours is also turning out nice. It's a really fun painting. The sketch is mostly the biggest part I find to get done, because then after that you can really play around with colors and different things you can add to it, right? So I'm just moving this a little bit more to it. There you go. So with the bigger ones, the bigger tree, I'm just going to go back with my big brush because it saves me so much time to kind of just get the shape right. There we go. But yeah, if anybody has any fun Halloween costumes they're using this year, I feel like a lot of people are super creative with their costumes sometimes. I'm like, what? How did they think of that? There's lots of ideas online as well. So people go crazy with cool stuff. I like the ones that are super creative. I think it was one of my friends. She went as a, I think she was an electrocuted person, and then her boyfriend was like the electrocuted umbrella. So it was really, I thought it was really funny. So, okay, so notice how I'm doing just the branches that I drew, but you don't have to add the other ones. So remember I said you can add more at the end. You will be able to do that, but just not yet, because you still want to do all the other parts. Sorry, all the other trees that are kind of overlapping. And then you can add more branches as you go. Also, try to add a darker line on the trees, like on one side like this, and leave this side lighter. So with watercolors and even acrylic, you can go back and kind of make something look a little bit darker by adding more pigment. So I know traditionally purple trees are not the greatest, but for some reason it works with this painting. And like I said, this purple works really well. I'm just doing the second tree here. Just kind of close it here. But the trees definitely add a lot of dimension to your drawing, to your painting. And then because this one's in the back, I'm just going to make it a little bit darker, just so that it doesn't fade in with the other one. That's really funny. A pair of dice. Cowboy hats for days. See, that's what I mean. People are so creative. I love that. You're very creative, Colleen. I love that so much. I like, cause a lot of the costumes you can make at home, right? So you can just make them work for you. You're welcome. Yeah, I can't come up with anything fun. I've seen a couple cute ones on Pinterest, but then I'm like, I'm too shy to do it. There we go. However, I do a lot of makeup looks. Like instead of using a whole outfit, I'll just do like a pumpkin makeup look or something like that. I'm often a vampire just to try to do a nice makeup look. Okay, I'm going to switch to my little brush now because now we're getting to the smaller parts. Sorry, the other trees. Oops. There we go. So these little trees are a little bit more... see, I did my sketch a little too light. So for this one, you definitely could have done your sketch much darker to help yourself. But don't worry, don't panic. If you can't see your trees, just wing it. Just don't be afraid of kind of thinking of what the tree branches kind of come out like this. And they kind of just flare out. And I know saying winging it, like, it's not ideal for a lot of people because they're like, I find a lot of people are scared of putting pigment down, but don't be scared because you can always fix it one way or another. There we go. And then I have 2 more trees to go here. But I find the trees being really relaxing to do. So they're kind of my favorite part to do, actually. The trees and the pumpkin, I think. The sky can be a little stressful, personally, just because you don't want it to look weird, but I think it turned out okay. Also, I'm using like canvas, sorry, not canvas paper. What do you call it? Watercolor paper, but it's cold pressed. Sorry, hot pressed. Cold press is the one that I use for this one, which is like a more absorbent paper, where hot press is very nice because it makes your artwork look really smooth, but it's very hard to get it to absorb. So I find like it just melts with the paint, which is still nice, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I'm just wondering if anybody else is using that hot press paper. You can also paint on canvases as well. Sorry, you can use a watercolor with canvas. Okay, there. So we got our trees. They look beautiful. I think they look really nice. I'm happy with them. And yeah, let's do the pumpkins now, and then we'll do the house absolutely last. I think that's the best way to go about it. You can definitely do the house and then the pumpkins, but I just recommend doing the house last. Just because you also want to give your sky some time to dry. Because if it's too wet when you put down the black, it's just going to bleed everywhere, right? So you don't want it to bleed throughout the whole artwork. Hi. Oh, Poland. That's awesome. Poland. Yeah, that's so cool. Welcome in. If you're just joining me, that's okay. Like I said, you could definitely rewind the video. I found out that you can do it. And watch it from the beginning. You can see how we did the beautiful sketch and then where to start painting it. So once you do the sketch, it's just a matter of how to start the painting, which starts from top to bottom, basically. You start with the sky and then build up the darker colors afterwards. All right. So just keep that in mind. Okay. I'm just going to paint the pumpkins. The pumpkins are just going to be nice and orange. Don't paint the eyes if you can, because you want the eyes to be a light color. And the more you leave the white, the more they're going to pop. Okay. I don't love the color that I got from my first pumpkins. I'm actually going to do a much brighter orange. But you can definitely do a browner color if you want. I just think the orange looks really nice. Okay. You could add a little bit of brown here. There we go. They don't have to be this bright orange. They can be like a lighter one. But I really like this one. Oh, just going to use my smaller brush. Again, for the pumpkins, you don't want to make them paint the whole thing. You want to leave the mouth and the eyes white because we're going to be painting them yellow. So if you want to add a little bit of definition, you can add a little bit of brown into the creases. And you can add a little bit of darker color on the right side of the pumpkin. So they have a little bit of a shadow. Okay. Oops. There we go. Also, is there any pumpkin carvers in here? I think I asked earlier, but if anybody new in here carves pumpkins, let me know. I was saying I carved a pumpkin recently and it was so fun, but it was really messy and gross. But I mostly just do it for the seeds. I love the pumpkin seeds. They're delicious. Okay, so we have a nice orange here. Then we want to add a little bit of a darker tone for some shadows. The shadows can be kind of on the right side only, so they don't have to be throughout the whole thing. I just want to have a nice little shadow. So obviously this ones would be on the left, like the shadow for this one. You're just doing opposites, right? Now the inside of the eye, with that lemon yellow, or you can use a white if you have one. You can do but I would suggest doing yellow for the eyes because I think it'll look a little bit nicer. So you're just going to color the inside of the eyes yellow. And then the little area that you left white, you can color that yellow as well. Just so it looks like it's kind of illuminating a little bit of it. Now you can use like a dark color to kind of go around the eyes a little bit, you know what I mean? So they kind of look more defined. I think that's a good thing to do for it. You don't have to use black at all. Like you can use the purple. And then the stem would be a dark brown. I mean, technically they can be green, but I think dark brown might look better. Go. They get so small as they go. And then the shadows can be a lot darker, so you don't have to leave them like this. You can make them a lot more contrasty. And this is where I meant that you can start doing some grass. So with the green that you used, or like a dark green, you can start using your brush to kind of add some grass patches here and there. Maybe a little bit of green with black or purple. So use your brush to kind of just go like this, like flare it out, like flick it almost. Try to utilize your brush as much as possible. They are very handy for this stuff. Honestly, replicating a picture is like very difficult at times, but this one is actually pretty, I'm happy with it. Like with the replication, making it again. We have to do a couple. There we go, of little grass areas. It doesn't have to be that much. You just have a little bit or a lot. It doesn't matter. Okay, perfect. So I think I'm happy with that. You can definitely make your pumpkins as detailed as you want. They can be a little bit more abstract. Just have fun with it. But the most important part, I think, to make your pumpkin kind of stand out a bit is by adding those shadows. So you definitely want to add these nice shadows to kind of make them look like they are glowing. So notice how it's dark over here, and it's dark over here, dark over here, and dark over here. This will really elevate your picture. Okay. Okay. Now another fun part is doing the little house. I can see it pretty well so far. But I'm just going to grab some black. And I'm going to use my little brush for this because you want to be very precise. And you can just start painting your little house. Oops, excuse me. I got the hiccups. So you're just going to paint it all black first. And you could also even use like a black marker if you wanted to for these little tiny details. If you have a white pen, like gel pen kind of, that one will be great for the windows, or a white acrylic pen. Those are great. I unfortunately don't have that. So I have to rely on my white, but that's okay. It should work just fine. Cute. Okay, so this house is definitely bigger than my original one, but that's okay. Now with the black color, you're going to just very nicely go over the little fence that you made. This one's a lot darker than my original one, but that's okay again. I'm happy with it. Yeah. Perfect. Oh, okay. So this is a good time for you to add those extra branches if you want to. So you can wash your brush and then use a little bit, that's not purple, some purple, and you can just start adding more branches wherever you want to add them. Be careful. Don't add too many because then it gets overwhelming. Sometimes I don't know when to stop and I'm like, just keep adding things. And add one more here. But yeah, you can have fun with how many branches you add. I'm going to add one more here. See, and then you like put one down and you're like, I regret that. It's okay. I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, I'll just leave it like this for now. Maybe one more here. See, it's just hard to stop because branches are so much fun to draw. Beautiful. I love it. I think I'm happy with that. So you do want to let your little house dry. Okay, so now one different thing I did from this one to this one, I actually painted inside of the sun. I painted it yellow. Now, I really like how it looks white, but you can change, you can definitely use a little bit of yellow to for it. I might use a little bit of yellow for, it's just, I feel like I'm gonna, because the natural paper looks really nice. However, it's a little bit bright. So you can definitely use a little bit of yellow to kind of, for the outside here. But then I feel like I'm gonna ruin it. It's okay. Too late, I already started, so I'm just gonna do it. So I'm just making the yellow a little bit more flared out. The natural white of the paper is really essential. But then you can even use your little spray to kind of add that extra bit of water that you need to kind of spread it out a bit more. There we go. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. So I left like a lot of white and a little bit of yellow outside here. One thing that I did for the original one, I also added a little bit of pinkish and here, which you can definitely do. Just to make it pop a bit more. Sometimes it's hard with the brush, so I just go ahead and do that. And it really like spreads it out. But it really wets your paper, so just have to be careful with it. Okay, perfect. So like I said, you can use a really white marker for the little windows. I'm going to use the white that I have. It's pretty good for the most part, but yeah, just see how it goes. So I'm going to use a tiny little brush. This is very small. You can kind of see how small it is and very pointy. And I'm just going to use a little bit of water because I want it to be really pigmented and white. So just be careful. And then you can just add these little lights. How many would you add? Maybe 4. Right here. And then maybe 2 here. 1 here and 1 here. See? So that white really makes it pop. Now you can also add some white to the pumpkins, the highlight area. Right here. See, this white is pretty good, like for the most part, but a lot of watercolor whites are not the best. So there we go. But that highlight will really emphasize everything. I don't recommend using a highlight for the tree. I don't think they need them, but you can if you want to. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of white here. Just adding a little bit of extra white to my my clouds. Beautiful. I actually really like this one a little bit more than this one, but you guys let me know. And there we go. So there's things that you can add still to it. You can add little bats. You can add, you know, little smaller details that I might not have added. You can definitely add them to your painting. I'm just going to take off the tape. Hopefully it's okay. Sometimes the tape doesn't want to cooperate with me. But yeah, I hope you guys had lots of fun. This was a really, really fun one for me. I really enjoyed it. I love Halloween. Halloween anything. But I also love Christmas. So with the tape, I usually pull it up this way so I don't rip the paper. That way it looks like it has a nice, definitely a nice frame. That's it, because I don't usually frame my work. Well, I do if it's like I need to, but sometimes I won't frame it, and I want a nice little border for it. There we go. And if you guys have, enjoy it, make sure that you post a picture of it in the group. We love to see it. You guys are also talented. It's really fun to see how everybody does different, has their own little style almost, and stuff like that. You're welcome, Colleen. Western Canada. So where around is that? Sorry, I'm so bad with geography. I'm also not originally from Canada, so I'm not the best. Hold on, let me just take this off really quickly. Perfect. Okay, that didn't rip, so that's good. And there we go. So you can definitely watch this at any time that you want to. It's available for after. So, oh, okay, gotcha. Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. It was so much fun. I really enjoyed, like I said, this one in particularly. Any tips are super appreciated. I will also be having an event. I think my next event is in November. So this is the last one for me in October. But I hope to see you guys there. Like I said, please take pictures and post them. They're really awesome to see. I love to see it, and it makes me happy. But I hope everybody has a great Halloween. Be safe out there and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Happy Friday, everyone. All right. I'm assuming there's no questions because I think they would have asked them by now. But if you do have questions, you can still comment and I'll be sure to answer it anyway. All right, guys. Have a good night. Bye, everyone.